Hey guys, this is Hyman and we'll be doing a reaction video. Now this time, I'm going to have to make it two separate videos. It's going to be this reaction story to 12 horror stories animated, which is a compilation of November, and I've lost track of how many I've done so far. Okay, let's get into the video before I waste anyone's time, but before that, like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. And you can do whatever you want. I'm just suggesting. I want to at least make a good impression this year.
There's a road that I always drive through for work day after day.
Okay.
Although it was a quiet place, I didn't pay much attention to it, as it has always a few cars on the road.
So
However,
far, so good.
something started to bother me at some point. There was a man standing on the same side of the road almost every day with no expression. It is not
Wait a minute.
same side of the road almost every.
He looks like I don't know if any of you have seen this show, but he looks like Norman Osborn from Spectacular Spider-Man. Yeah, I mean the face, the eyes, and whatnot is a good reminder of Norman Osborn from the show Spectacular Spider-Man.
Day with no expression. Late at night or early daybreak. It hasn't been long since I noticed he was always in the same place in all weather.
Okay.
So one day, I talked to my colleague about the man, and he suddenly said, "He seemed like a very famous man around that place. But you know what? No matter where you see him, you will always see his face from the front. No one has literally seen his back or even his side. Moreover, there are, strangely, many accidents on that road. So everyone says that's a curse from that dude. For now, everyone just passes him on the road and ignores him." I suddenly became curious about him. That day on my way back home from work, I was driving on the road where the man stood. And the man was standing there as usual, looking straight at me. As I was passing the side of him, I turned my head to see him sideways. But he was already staring at me straight in his face.
Okay, that's a bit off.
Now I passed the man and looked into the side mirror to see his back. But still, he was looking at me straight. It made me feel creepy enough. After I arrived at home, another curiosity sprang up. So he kept staring at me, but I couldn't really see him moving. He definitely moved when I just took my eyes off for a moment. Then what happens if I keep staring at the man without taking my eyes off of him?
Don't do that. You can end up
The
in a
next
car
day,
accident.
I headed to the same place. It was time to put the way I thought yesterday into practice. And he surely stood in the same places, staring straight at me. I began to keep my eyes on him from the moment I first saw him and watched him until the moment I passed by. And of course, when I didn't take my eyes off him, he didn't look back at me either. The side of the mystery man began to be seen little by little, and I noticed that it was no different from the other ordinary person. But I felt excited like a child who had just discovered the hidden treasure. Besides, it would be perfect if I see his backside last. I had already turned my head 180 degrees and looked back dangerously before I knew it. I couldn't see the back well, so I was trying to turn back, putting my hands off the steering wheel. Now the back of him was finally seen by my eyes. Being satisfied, I was about to exclaim, and at that moment, bang! Then I suddenly lost my mind.
Of course.
When I woke up again, I was lying in the hospital, and fortunately I was not seriously hurt though. What a stupid. Why did I do that? Was I possessed by something? While thinking about those things, a man in a police uniform knocked on the door of the room and came inside. "Hi, I came here to hear what happened to you yesterday." So I frankly confessed
He looks
that I
like
had acted rashly to see the back of the man standing on the road, and admitted that the accident had happened. I told him that I don't know why I suddenly thought so. Just then, the cop who was listening to me without saying anything said to me, and that one sentence that he had told me still remained in my head long after the incident. Since that day, I've been avoiding the road wherever I go to work or come back home. Shoot, that dude didn't take you this time.
I hate these ads. Okay, true horror story about my stalker, animated. Okay, so I think I'm gonna have to separate this into two parts. So 6 stories first part, 6 stories second. I'm gonna make a note. So we're on the second one now.
In under a minute if I really wanted to, so it really worked out for me. I was in my late 30s. I worked out quite a lot, and while I was fit, I was still a smaller girl. Even though I was married, I would constantly get hit on and asked out. It was pretty flattering, but it always made me feel really awkward.
Yeah, I guess it would.
Now, this particular store I worked at was in a really weird part of town. It was
How
on
weird.
the right side of town to attract the Karens, but close enough to the not-so-good side of town to attract the drug addicts, drunks, and psychopaths. Anyway, let me say that I'm not someone that gets scared easily. I've had someone high on meth crash their car into the side of the store, causing the back of our store to bend inward because we didn't carry pineapple juice. I had a man pick me up and throw me over his shoulder and start walking out the door with me, saying that I'd make a good wife. Yeah, but that's one for another time. Anyways, it all started on a Sunday morning. I remember this because I was really busy building end caps and making cell signs. I was working with my favorite coworker, so the day was flying by and I was really bubbly this day. There was a man and his son that came into the store and they made a beeline for me. The man was probably just a little under 6 foot and he was skinny.
Okay.
The man had dreadlocks and a long skinny silver earring dangling from his ear. He also had this really tan trench coat that I found really odd because it was summer. Nonetheless, though, I had then greeted them and asked if they needed some help. The man spoke with a really thick Jamaican accent, and he said that his GPS stopped working, and he wanted to see if we had any. I let out a really small laugh, thinking he was messing with me. No, that would be at Best Buy or something, but we do have a small section of electronics on this wall over here. I indicated the wall to the back of me. Oh, thanks, he said, taking a look, but also keeping his eyes on me. Something about those eyes just really chilled me. He was speaking another language to his son, but I kept going on about my task for the day, and he would call me to help him, asking me questions about chargers and SD cards. I answered them, and then he started telling me how beautiful I was.
Oh no, I know where this is going. He's gonna follow you. You're gonna separate from him, but he's gonna somehow follow you.
Really awkwardly, I had thanked him. You must work out, yeah? He asked. Yeah, yoga mostly. I replied while getting more and more uncomfortable now. He made some more comments about my body, telling me how he loved my tattoos, and he was just really being a creep. I tried to stay polite though, and eventually I just walked away to do some more work. I started to avoid him, but he was still staring at me. The man had his phone out, and I kept hearing the shuddering of a camera. I went to the office to tell my other coworker that I thought the guy was taking my picture, and I was just really feeling uncomfortable. He then came out and watched over me. Shortly after my coworker came out, the man and his son then left. By the time the end of my shift came, I forgot about him. A few weeks later, I was up front ringing customers with a different coworker. We were crazy busy that day.
Wait, was that the same person? I mean, I saw the trench coat, saw the earrings.
I was the manager on duty. After we got the line down, my coworker then handed me an envelope. What's this? I asked her. I don't know. Some man in dreadlocks told me to give it to you, she said.
Oh no. Let me guess, it's her photos. Okay.
I took the envelope and I went into my office with it. Inside the envelope were dozens and dozens of pictures of me. My heart sank. I had no idea that these were taken. Most of them were of me in the store while working, some of me walking home, and some even with me and my daughter. I felt sick.
I would too.
There was also a note with it. It said something along the lines of,
You're so beautiful. I'm in love with you. I'd be a much better husband than what you have now. Please give me a chance.
There was more to it, but it's in police evidence now. The guy really stupidly left his name and address. I then called our store manager as well as the police. They took our camera footage, my statement, and the pictures and letter. They told him that he really needed to stay away from me, or the next time he's getting arrested and he's banned from the store. I was really relieved, but still really bothered by it. A few more weeks to about a month then went by. It was another really busy Sunday night. It was just myself as the manager on duty, and we had another coworker as my cashier. We were ringing things up together when I noticed a man staring at me.
Same person.
The man was tall with a medium build. He had dreadlocks, and he had the same earring and long trench coat as the other man did. This man was really scary. His eyes were just cold and really dead and angry. It felt like they were staring right through my soul.
Jesus, I mean, at least this time you can call the police because he broke the rules. He got there. He went there after you. It's second time, so yeah.
He didn't have anything to purchase, just stood and stared. I tried to smile politely at him, then another wave of customers came. I got lost in helping everyone, but didn't see the man anymore. Even when things calmed down, I still didn't see him. I decided to go start facing the back of the store, and I told my coworker to call me if she needed me. As I was back there, I heard that Jamaican accent and all over.
Crap.
I looked up at the mirror to see that same scary man on the phone.
Yeah, she's here. No, it's just one other girl here with her. I can grab her when she leaves. No problem.
I was absolutely horrified.
Call police now.
He didn't see me, so I slowly made my way up to the front. I briefly tell my coworker what's going on and then called the police.
I mean, you've even got camera footage that he was there in the building. That's going to affect things.
The cops took him away. A few days later, a detective came to speak to me. The two men were brothers. They were abducting women and actually using them for human trafficking. He told me I was really lucky. I later found out that they had apparently found a woman beat to death in their apartment.
Jesus.
They've both since gone to prison. This still gives me really bad nightmares. What happened to that woman could have easily been me. But thank God it wasn't.
That was one hell of a story. Okay, so we're on the third story. Jesus Christ, these are going really fast.
If you are going to see him, you've got to try Monday.com. Go to Monday.com and manage.
I hate these ads.
The events of the story take place over the course of a few nights. Before we get there, I need to provide a little bit of backstory. My husband and I had just moved to New York City, like right in the heart of the city.
Okay.
The apartment was breathtaking. I kept thinking that it was a loft apartment you would see in a movie or a television show. My husband was fortunate enough to land a well-paying job that allowed us to afford this beautiful apartment.
Okay.
My favorite part was the view. At night, you could see all the lights from the city out of the windows. It didn't take long for my husband to make some friends at work. He's a very social person. Being in sales for a decade makes it easy for him to strike up a conversation with anyone. Almost a year into living in the city, we had our weekend crew that we would hang out with routinely. We would have dinner, play games, or just have some drinks with Becky and Jim, as well as another couple, Jason and Liz.
Okay.
But my husband's best friend from the city was a man named Eric. Eric did not have a significant other, but never came alone. He always had a friend that he would bring. He would always joke with me and my husband, "Don't worry, guys. You never have to worry about me being the third wheel." This turned into a reoccurring joke, and Eric was almost referred to as this third wheel. One night after one of our little get-togethers, my husband and I were getting ready for bed. We talked for a while, but I'm pretty sure I fell asleep mid-sentence. I woke up at some point in the middle of the night. I didn't look at the time, but it was still dark, so 4 or 5 a.m. if I had to guess. I heard a noise, and I I know that it's what woke me up. I just laid in bed, feeling a bit uneasy, and looked up in the dark room. I thought I could see a figure of some kind.
Don't tell me he was there.
The more I tried to focus, the more and harder it was to see. I felt as if though I could almost hear something like breathing or wheezing. After a few minutes, I felt much better and chalked it up to some kind of vivid nightmare and rolled over back to bed. I was too scared in the moment to look and didn't want to wake my husband up for something that was probably just a giant overreaction. The next night came and same story. We went to bed at around 11. I didn't tell my husband about the events of the night before. Again, I was awoken in the middle of the night. This time I looked at the time and it was shortly after 4 a.m. I could for sure hear breathing this time. I looked around the room from the bed, but this time I couldn't see any figures like I did the night before. I could just hear the breathing and it felt so close. I tried waking up my husband, but he was out cold. I didn't try awfully hard because he had to wake up in about an hour for work. I didn't sleep well the rest of the night, and I woke up with him in the morning and did not want to
So let me guess, the quote-unquote third wheel is after her.
I moved to the living room and slept on the couch for a couple of hours. The day was miserable. I couldn't shake the weird feeling for the entire day. Around 2 in the afternoon, I took a shower. When I turned the shower off and was drying my hair in the bathroom, I heard something from outside the bathroom door. I froze in paranoia in the bathroom and listened with my ear to the door, but heard nothing. Finally, I worked up the courage to leave the bathroom and felt a minor moment of relief when I was in fact still alone in the apartment. Shortly after 5, my husband came home from work and I told him about the events of the last 2 nights. At first he laughed as if though I were telling him a joke. Once he realized how freaked out I was, he then began to try and rationalize what I could have been seeing and hearing. I have to say, I was insulted because he even suggested that maybe I had too much to drink, but that was not the case whatsoever.
Oh boy, this is going to be a story and a half. Okay, moving on to... Okay, so wait, I think we're on story 3.
He then said in a
I've
reassuring
lost
voice,
track.
"Listen, if it happens again, just wake me up, and I'll search the room." This actually did give me some relief that I was able to talk to him about it. However, I was still anxious that I would hear or see something again. That night came quickly, and I was so tired from the previous night that I fell asleep even though I was practically petrified to go to bed. Again, right around 3:30 in the morning, I woke up to the sound of breathing, and it was undeniable at this point. I looked around the room and saw nothing, just like the previous night. I woke up my husband and told him to listen. He said he could hear the breathing too. He sprang from the bed and turned on the light. There was thankfully nobody standing in the room. That brief moment of solace ended quickly when that nightmare came true. My husband walked over to the walk-in closet, and emerging from under the bed was Eric.
Jesus Christ.
He sprinted towards my husband, who was now in the closet, and tackled him.
That gave me a jump scare and a half.
Absolutely freaking out. I jumped from the bed and tried to make a run for the door. My plan was to just yell in the hallway until someone hopefully heard me. I didn't even make it to the door before Eric had caught me. I screamed as loud as I could, and thankfully in a quick moment my husband sprang out and tackled Eric in return.
Yeah, good job you
I ran
did.
to the cell phone and called the police. My husband is a fairly large man and was able to get Eric to the ground and keep him there and subdue him until the cops showed up. To the police's credit, they showed up incredibly fast. My husband only had minor scrapes and bruises, but had a pretty big knot on his head. When the cops were arresting Eric, we could hear him saying, "I didn't want to be the third wheel anymore. I didn't want to be the third wheel anymore." What's even more disturbing is that he told the police he was inside of our apartment for a couple of days. He had somehow stolen my husband's key and made a copy of it. He was apparently breaking into the apartment for weeks, but had been staying during the night for the last few days. I'm not sure why he didn't try anything while we were sleeping or any of the times myself or my husband were alone in the apartment. It still freaks me out thinking that this man was inches from where I slept. We're now back in my hometown, not living in the city anymore.
Damn,
The terror
that actually looks like a giant house I would happily live in.
We're now back in my hometown, not living in the city anymore. The terror you feel being trapped that high up in the sky with nowhere to run has made me extremely claustrophobic. You never know what people are capable of, even people you consider close friends. The police did inform us that Eric stated he didn't intend to hurt either one of us that night, but the look in his eyes told us a completely different story.
Okay, so on to story 4. Okay, we're going by these fast, aren't we? My crazy ex-girlfriends. Okay, let's hear it.
This happened to me about 6 years ago. I'm now 26, and I'm also married with 2 awesome kids. For some context, I'm a guy. This is what happened to me. I tried so many times to leave my ex-girlfriend, who we'll call Sarah. Whenever I would tell her that I wanted to see other people or that I should move out so that we have room to breathe, she would always go crazy and threaten to kill or cut herself, or even drive her car off the bridge. Mind you, where I live, there really isn't any bridges. Anyways, one day I run into my ex-girlfriend, who we'll call Rachel, at the mall. We ended on good terms, so we had actually talked like nothing happened. I had told Rachel about my situation with Sarah and how I really wasn't happy with her, and that I was really scared that she was going to do something to harm herself. Rachel told me if I was really worried that much, that I should let one of her family members know. So one day during work, I called her on my lunch and told her we should have dinner and talk. I also ran to our place and got all of my things and my dogs and moved everything back into my parents' house.
Okay.
I know. That's really messed up. But you have to understand that she was crazy. Like really crazy. When we went to dinner...
So, from 1 to yonder, how crazy was she? But my guess is she's willing to commit suicide, so I'd say 4, 5, or 6.
Public that we should break up because I just wasn't happy anymore. And to be honest, I really hadn't been for a while. I mean, we had been together for about 3 years.
Jesus.
I wasn't happy. I had actually told her a few months after we started dating that I thought we were better off as friends. Anyways, so we break up and I go back to my parents' house, which they really weren't happy about because they knew how she was and they were really scared that she was going to do something to the house. Or maybe even worse. They wanted me to go to a family member's house instead. But I mean, really, who would actually take 2 big dogs and me on top of this giant load of drama? Later that night, when me and my dad are talking in the living room, all of a sudden we hear the sound of my truck alarm then go off and the sound of glass break.
Oh no.
My heart sank.
It's her, isn't it?
I just knew it was Sarah. I go outside, calmly trying to talk to her like an adult, and she just starts hitting me and spitting in my face, telling me I'm a piece of crap and all these other crazy things. I kid you not, I didn't touch her not one time, and I never raised my voice. I tried to get her to relax and at the same time telling my dad everything was okay. I can handle this. Just go back inside. Finally, after about a half hour of just getting hit and yelled at, she eventually leaves, peeling out of my parents' neighborhood. Let's fast forward a few days later.
Okay.
I end up getting a visit from the cops asking where I was the night of this night, and blah blah blah. You know how it goes. I tell them, but they don't believe me. They say that they want to take me downtown for some questions. Being the decent person that I am, I decide to go willingly. And, well, what do you know? It turns out that she had filed a report on me saying that I beat her and also held her at gunpoint to get all of her money from her safe, and that I also wanted the PIN numbers to her
Jesus
car.
Christ, she's insane.
For a while, I didn't even say anything because I was just so shocked at this point. I then tell the cops, look at me. I'm the one that has cuts and bruises here. She did that. I didn't do anything to her. Their response? Sir, she's a lady. We have to hear her side on this, and we're going to need to take some DNA samples from you. Well, I give them what they need, and long story short, I'm thrown in jail waiting for a hearing. About 2 weeks go by.
Jesus Christ. Couldn't they just ask the parent or something, since they were witnesses?
And the results came back. And you guessed it. Totally negative. Also, I forgot to mention this, but me and Rachel ended up getting back together, but the harassment never stopped. Sarah made it impossible for me to move on with my life.
Yeah, I
For
bet she
almost
did.
a year, I would get constant visits from cops asking why I was stalking her. Sarah even hired a private investigator to follow me and Rachel around. Every time I got a visit from a cop, I always had something backing me up on where I was whenever Sarah...
Okay, and that's me for now.